Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. I am Adam Weinrib alongside Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. Oh my God. The New York Mets are moving on to the NLCS, becoming the first team to punch their ticket to the next round. That also means the Philadelphia Phillies are out, and it's time for fallout. Yankees lead their series 2-1. Dodgers and Padres deadlocked at 2. Guardians and Tigers. Detroit can close that out today as well. But the Mets are the first team to move on to the next round. We'll talk about the repercussions of that, positive in Mets land, negative in Phil's land, and obviously the Phillies have some big changes to make, but a core to maintain. And here, as always, to talk it out with me is Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. Robert, intensity level of the playoffs has been ratcheted up significantly through a round and a half, I would say.
I knew going into this postseason, that there was going to be some upsets, that there was going to be some pretty wacky things that went on, considering just how many good teams there actually were, or competitive teams there were in this postseason hunt. I did not necessarily expect this. We've got the Tigers 1 game away from advancing to the ALCS. We have the Mets currently in the NLCS, and we're going to have the winner of the Dodgers and Padres series advancing, obviously. And then the Yankees and Royals. The Yankees, I mean, we'll get into that a little bit later, but it seems like they're probably in a good spot to advance. But there's been some pretty wacky things. I can't get over certain things. I can't believe the Phillies are eliminated. I can't believe that we're at this point, but I'm ready to break it all down with you, man, because it's sheer madness. I don't think there's any other way of putting it, but here we are now. Adam Weiner, good to be here with you. How are you doing? And good to see you again. Lovely Thursday.
Lovely Thursday and one of the best days of the week. Definitely top 7 day. You want to talk about sheer madness? I mean, the playoffs are getting so wild that you tweeted yesterday that eggs are just bad. You tweeted eggs are straight up bad.
Eggs suck.
Yeah.
Any form of them. I don't. They blow. Sorry.
But that's the kind of week we're having. Eggs blow. They're not good. The Phillies also not good. The Phillies with a lineup full of eggs, 1 through 9. If you want to get this kind of insight between shows, we recommend you join us in the Discord. You could either be a Rumor Mill member, where you'll get to hang out with Robert and I and ask us questions, or an All-Star member, private Zoom once a month, figuring that out for October. Obviously, pretty busy month, but we'll get that going. And then, obviously, you get priority responses in the chat to your questions. So show up early, hit us before the shows start. We'll come and address the best questions. Obviously, pop onto the show now. Hit us in the stream. We'll be happy to answer questions along the way as well. And if you can't get enough Robert Murray, and who can, subscribe to the Moonshot. That is our weekly baseball email newsletter with the Fansided MLB team, including the one and only Robert Murray. Break down all the biggest stories in the big leagues with humor, insight, and behind-the-scenes info. And egg talk, maybe. You never know. Particularly wild week. Obviously, plenty of postseason to discuss. Also, do want to note before we really get going that there was thoughts going out to everyone in Florida affected by the hurricane. I know we certainly have some streamers in Florida. Tropicana Field's roof blew off yesterday. That footage is absurd. That was a space that was being used to house first responders and shelter them. And what I've heard, no injuries directly related to that. But the Tampa Bay Rays, that's still their stadium. And that shows, I mean, that's decades old, that roof. And has been the home of professional baseball in Tampa since it began, and the stadium existed before that. So long legacy. That roof is just gone. I mean, have you heard anything from Florida, from anyone in the Rays camp, other than this is just an immeasurable tragedy and we're going to have to work through this?
I haven't heard anything from anyone there. I think it's too early to tell exactly if this could have any kind of impact on the Rays' season, or like what they're exactly, where they can play their games at home. But it's a huge tragedy. Like, it's awful. I mean, seeing those videos, there was one from Ryan Bass, I believe it was, who's down in Tampa. It was just seeing the wind just rip apart the roof. Absolutely crazy. I know both Adam and I are thinking all you guys, everyone here at Fansided, the Baseball Insiders, you name it, thinking of you guys. But yeah, I have not heard of any other updates. I'm just hoping that everybody in that area is just okay at this point.
Yeah, it's rare that the jarring footage of hurricane spectrum crosses over with the baseball spectrum, but that was wild to see, and a brief distraction from what's been an incredible postseason so far. Like Robert said, our thoughts are obviously with you folks. Well, when it comes to the NLDS and the one series that has ended, there's a lot of Phillies fallout to talk about, and we'll get there, but I do think that we should spend some time celebrating the Mets first, because if you're on the outside looking in, you can laugh at the gimmicks, you can laugh at the grimaces. I saw a tweet, I believe it was from Laura Albanese, that said 2 grimaces were about to make out on the scoreboard, and then the scoreboard operator cut away, to which I say, cut back. Why are you doing that? Come on, let us see the grimaces kiss. But look, it's silly, and if you're not in it, then obviously you're thinking, okay, same old Mets, they're doing gimmicks, but where's the on-field product? But at the same time, anybody watching yesterday's game, even with the Mets stranding all those runners, and even with chance after chance being wasted early in the game, 1-0 deficit, bases loaded for Francisco Lindor. Did anyone have any doubt that he was coming through with at least a 2-run scoring single, if not an outright grand slam to change the game? We've seen it too much from these Mets in recent weeks to doubt them at this point. So if you're still thinking it's a gimmick, it'll blow over, I have news for you. It'll be a fantastic series against whichever West Coast opponent advances, but you're not getting this adorable story Mets team that you can sort of take care of in 4 or 5 games.
No, totally. And the Mets have proven that this is legit. It wasn't a fluke against Atlanta. It was not a fluke against the Brewers, and it was not a fluke against the Philadelphia Phillies. They are for real. They are one of the most resilient teams that I can recall in recent baseball memory here. It seems like no matter the deficit that they have, whether it's 1, 2, or however many runs, they're still in the ball game. They cannot be discounted at all. And it's not just Lindor. It's not just Pete Alonso. It's not just Jesse Winker. It's the whole team at this point. And when Lindor ended up stepping to the plate yesterday with the bases loaded, they just, you could just sense that something was going to happen. Okay, this is the moment where the Mets do their thing. They end up getting something on the board. I don't know if I necessarily expected a grand slam. And I wish I was there for that, just because it seemed like it was absolutely electric in that ballpark. And the work that Carlos Mendoza has done as a manager, but also David Stearns has done as the president of baseball operations, I don't think you could have really scripted a better first year of that partnership there in New York. And if this is going to be what the first year looks like, I can't wait to see what the future looks for him, because it looks incredibly bright. You would think that Stearns is obviously, his resume spoke for itself before he ended up going to New York, but seeing the results this quickly it could lead to some more flexibility and increased trust from that ownership there. And maybe that gets Stearns to spend more in the offseason than he did from this past offseason. But the focus for him will always be pitching and defense. That's how he believes that games and this generation of baseball is. It's clearly working for him now. But man, what a freaking start to this partnership. And now they're 4 wins away from advancing to the World Series. Who could have seen this coming?
And clean games, everyone has stepped up when they face early deficits or late deficits, what have you. It does not seem to matter at all. Game 1, they're down 1-0 to Zach Wheeler, having an historic performance, Kyle Schwarber with the leadoff home run, and it just kind of doesn't matter and disintegrates in a matter of moments against the Phillies bullpen. That's what these Mets have done over and over again, whether they're putting their imprint on a game from first pitch or they're lingering and waiting for the moment to strike. They seem to have that in them. And Pete Alonso has been a huge part of all this. I do think it's noteworthy. I'm not saying, look, we all know he's heading to free agency. We all know he is going to, he's making himself money with every opposite field homer in the clutch he hits this October. But before the game, he did notably say, "This is the most fun baseball I've ever played in my life. There is nothing like this. What's the point if you're not having fun?" As well as, it's not just a business, it's a game. You're trying to enjoy the ride. Now, I think we treated Alonso's departure from the Mets as a bit more of an inevitability when we knew that this might be a 2 or 3 year process for them. In May, for instance, when it didn't feel like there was immediate hope around the corner. Now the good times are rolling. Alonso clearly is going to give some consideration to staying in this extremely fun environment. It's not going to be a discount per se, but obviously telegraphing that, this is an experience. I don't want this to end. I'll remember this forever either way. Do the Mets have some sort of upper hand here as free agency begins from when the season ends? Is he tipping his hand, or is this just an unorthodox ball player comment, but nothing more?
I feel like it's a ball player who's living in the moment right now. He's having a blast in New York. He's finally winning, which is something he really has not gotten to experience in his time in New York. I mean, or at least getting to this point, I should say. But to me, I believe that Alonso will reach free agency. I believe that he will seek the most dollar that he can possibly get, because when you hire Scott Boras, you're not going to take a deal for less. You're trying to get max value, and considering the lack of there's not many real true like elite players on the free agent market. I don't know if I'd put Alonso in the elite category. I think he's a really good player, but he's really stepped up in this postseason. I know he's getting some flack early on, but he's really stepped up against the Brewers. Ended up hitting that 3-run homer to give the Mets the lead there in the ninth inning against Devin Williams, and he stepped up in this series against Philadelphia. So he is putting himself in position to really get the big contract that he's always wanted, and I believe he will get it. That being said, I do believe that the Mets are going to be in this sweepstakes. Absolutely. There was a reason why the Mets were not even entertaining offers for Alonso last offseason, because they value him, they wanted him, and they believe in him. There's clear that both sides are comfortable with one another. Whether or not that's going to lead to a deal, remains to be seen. But I wouldn't rule it out. But it's not a foregone conclusion that he's gone, or it's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to stay either.
Yes, good clarity there for now. But it's good to be the Mets and to have joy and a ball rolling down a hill and an NLCS. And maybe Pete Alonso's free agency, and obviously we're also looking at Juan Soto and all that. It's a little less enviable to be the Phillies right now, who have gone from World Series loser to NLCS, Game 6 and 7 at home against the Diamondbacks, not what you want, to now falling in the NLDS and becoming the latest victim of the bye. By the way, who wants the bye? While we're here, show of hands. Do you want the bye? Not loving the bye. I think Dodgers fans. We'll talk about this in a little. The Dodgers surprised me genuinely yesterday by getting off the mat. We'll talk about it. But so far, the bye has not been kind, and the Phillies fans made fun of the Braves fans for talking about the long layoff, and then all of a sudden, Phillies, the first batter of the Phillies' first playoff game, homers, and then they can't get on track for 3 more games, essentially. Have to rally to win Game 2 and then go down pretty silently in Games 3 and 4. Several of their core players are extremely expensive and locked in for the long term. We're getting close to the end of Kyle Schwarber's contract. Unfortunately, only 1 more year, and Rio Muto, same deal. But it seems that they're indicating the whole core is going to come back, but that there might be rampant change elsewhere. Are we sort of starting to hit a wall in Philly and getting into a problem that must be solved?
Yeah, I think this offseason there are not going to be there's not going to be much that's left off the table for the Phillies at this point. I think if you look at guys like Bryce Harper, you look at Trey Turner, you look at Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, and then Kyle Schwarber, I think those are probably the 5 guys that are safe there in Philadelphia. After that, I mean, I kind of say all bets are off. I don't know what the future holds for a guy like JT Realmuto. Or everybody else, I should say. It just, there's a lot of stuff that, I don't know. There's just a lot up in the air with them. And I would expect them to listen to as many offers as possible for guys on their current roster that I not among the names that I just listed. But then you end up looking at what do they do in free agency? And if there's one thing that I know that Dave Dombrowski is always open to, it is the big move. He's done it in years past. He's done it in different spots. He's always tried to add a pitcher. Roki Sasaki is going to be, he might be available. I don't know if he's going to be posted or not. But then you look at the biggest fish in the market, and it's Juan Soto. I have mentioned Soto in the Phillies in stories, I believe on this podcast, for a little bit now. Adam is off the stream, so I don't know exactly what's going on with that. But I will continue my thoughts. Adam's back. Look at that. There we go. It was a brief exit, but I'm happy to have you back, my friend. But as far as Soto goes, I think he is absolutely going to be in play for Philadelphia. And you look, he's got a lot of former teammates currently on that roster in Philly. But I think the name that really stands out to me is the presence of Kevin Long, their hitting coach in Philly. He is as respected as they come. And I think he is someone who is going to be a key part in trying to bring Soto to Philly. He would clearly make him most comfortable. It would clearly make him comfortable, I should say. And Philly, they should have the ability to spend big in free agency. John Middleton is always desperate to win. And if you have a chance at signing Juan Soto for the duration of his prime, I think you step up and you give him that offer. And he's got a history of making big deals. I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it again. I also I think I forgot Nick Castellanos before. I would expect him to return to Philadelphia, but I mean, you never know what can be offered in a trade. But I think anything and everything is on the table in Philly, as it should be. And it's going to be a very busy winter for Dave Dombrowski because clearly they're missing something and they got a lot of stuff to do. That is putting it lightly.
It always is a busy winter for Dave Dombrowski. And no, I did not leave the stream in protest because we were discussing Juan Soto to the Phillies. I'm not sure why I left the stream, but I'm happy to be back on the stream. So
I will say this. I'm happy to have you on the stream too. I'm going to disagree with you, Justin. I do not think LA is more likely to get Soto than Philly.
I am as well. I don't understand that.
No, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Be willing to hear it out, but as of now, I don't understand that. It kind of feels like New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Los Angeles to me, if I'm doing the tier system.
Well, give me a little bit on the tier system because I want to make sure I think this one through. But I knew right away when I saw that one did not pass the smell test, Justin.
Yeah, and we've said it over and over again. We love the smell test, and we'll continue to use it as the offseason continues. I do see your comments and questions. We're going to get to a few of these before end of show, and I do see Ryan Pizer asking which Boris client do you think is first off the board. I'm just going to answer that now because I know that we aren't really in the prediction game in October typically. So I just want to sort of flag that down and say, get back to us a little bit. I don't know if we have the horses to put an educated guess forth here, but we appreciate the question. We're just going to have to wait a little bit on that. And the answer, as you all know, is that it's probably going to take a while for any of the Boris clients to be off the board.
Yeah, that would be my guess too. It's hard to predict. It's hard to predict any of the Boris guys going off the board, especially the big ones, because Boris will wait out the market as long as he can, trying to get the best deal.
Yeah.
And there's times he's taken it to March. And I mean, it's who knows if he does it again, but that's too early to predict. But I hopefully will have some clarity on that before too long.
Yeah. And when we get to the offseason, we're going to have ourselves a whale of a time because we always do. If you haven't ridden with us in the offseason before at the trade deadline, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to be here. So we're excited for that, obviously.
Oh, yeah. And another thing, too, that I really look forward to in the offseason streams is there's times where I get news live on the show, and I will legit break news before I even tweet it. So I would highly recommend watching every offseason show. Maybe who knows if that happens again. I mean, I would say it probably will happen. So I would definitely recommend staying tuned for the offseason shows because those are a blast. My notebook is typically usually pretty full for those.
Yeah, don't miss an off-season show. Hey, watch them twice. See if you can pick up a plot device that you missed the first time. There might be a twist or a secret hint. Probably not, but you never know. Might as well watch them 3 times while you're at it. And speaking of chaos, what is going on in Detroit, by the way? Today is game 4 of the ALDS. Again, we're going to get to the end of this, and I don't know if the Tigers are going to hold on or the Guardians are going to come back. But I do. Let's say the Tigers win the series. We're going to get to the end of this and we're going to be like, yeah, Skubal, man. And the Tigers, they throw so many looks at you and they're clutch and the young team is gelling and you can't stop momentum. And we're going to forget that the Guardians put up 5 runs in the first inning of game 1 and put that one away in a second and a half. So I just think it's worth noting the turnaround. It's partially Skubal for sure, who threw 7 shutty in game 2. But that game was still scoreless into the late innings, past Skubal. Emmanuel Clase triples up on his second best pitch. Kerry Carpenter takes him out. And then all of a sudden, game 3 is kind of simple for the Tigers, even though the path to get there wasn't easy. There's a different arm every 5 minutes, and they get the job done. The Guardians' offense has completely disappeared, which would be, I had low expectations and they didn't meet them. But the first inning of the first game was 5 runs, was an offensive avalanche. And then we've just gotten to complete disappearing act. If this was a bigger market team like the Yankees or Dodgers, the local media would be all over them. I'm not sure what the Cleveland media is doing right now, but it's getting lost a bit in the national narrative. So when we talk about the Tigers, who are on the precipice I also do want to talk about the fact that it felt like the Guardians were making a statement at the early portion of game one. And from that moment in time, the Tigers had every excuse to go away and tuck the tail between their legs. And then they just held the fort for almost a full 9 innings in game two, won it late, and then business as usual, their own form of business as usual in game three. And here we are.
Oh, totally. Like, I remember watching that first game and I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. I was thinking it was going to be a 3-game sweep. I thought they were toast. And now here the Tigers are. They have completely turned the series around. Like, they have completely dominated the Guardians. They've got to one of the best closers in baseball in Emmanuel Clase. I mean, it was funny seeing the Guardians' Twitter account before the regular season ended calling him a Cy Young frontrunner. Not necessarily sure I buy into that one. But the fact that the Tigers have done this, because let's be real, they've got a roster full of forgotten about players or overlooked players, or just, I mean, trust me, like, I understand they got talent, but for most people, they were just overlooked, and they thought that late season surge was not going to translate to the postseason. But guess what? They have held the Guardians scoreless for the last 20 innings. They've completely dominated games 2 and 3 here. And they've really looked in those games like the superior team. And now they're 27 outs away from advancing to the ALCS and having a legit shot at going to the World Series. If you had, like, I'll be totally real. I don't think anybody in baseball, if you would have asked me 2 weeks before the regular season ended, I would not have even had the Tigers in the postseason. But the fact that they've done this, it should be commended with how Scott Harris has constructed that roster. I know he got a lot of flack for giving up Jack Flaherty for a package as little as it was compared to, like, relative to some other deals at the deadline. But he has done a really nice job building that roster. They are in a way better position now than they were when he took over after Al Avila got fired. But AJ Hinch and the job that he has done in Detroit, and specifically finding ways to get 27 outs and starts that are not done by Tariq Skubal, it's a job that should be extremely, like, commended here. It's remarkable. It should not be overlooked because it is one of the top stories in baseball right now. The job that Hinch has done in Detroit, and they're not going away. And this time I will agree with you, Justin. I will agree with you. There is not a chance that they trade Skubal in the offseason at this point. If they go on this run and then trade Skubal, that would be one of the biggest punches in the face to a fan base that is finally excited about their team that I can recently recall. That'd be a tough pill to swallow. In Sports Glory, we see your question about the Giants. We will get to that by the end of the show, but we first had to address the postseason series here.
Yeah. See your questions about the Twins as well. We'll get to that too before we sign off. But Skubal staying put. I didn't even know I had to think about that, but I guess I did. And yeah, he's going nowhere, and there's a higher chance that he's pitching in the World Series for the Tigers this year than that he's pitching in another uniform next year. Some teams still do have starters in this day and age. Tigers have at least one. The Dodgers have 1.75 starters, I guess, but I guess it doesn't matter because they won a Ryan Brazier bullpen game with their backs against the wall in game 4. I saw Atlanta Rizzo hold Dave Roberts' feet to the fire after game 3 and say that he seemed resigned to a loss and that the team didn't seem like they cared so much after the Manny Machado A-Rod glove slap play, basically getting in the grass and getting in the way of Freddie Freeman's throw. I was genuinely, and I won't even say I disagreed with that conjecture. I was genuinely surprised to see the Dodgers get off the mat yesterday, but they did powerfully, and it was Betts and Ohtani and a fleet of arms, much like the Tigers. How did the Padres squander that momentum? Dylan Cease on short rest. I don't know. And I don't know where the vibes are for game 5, to be honest, but it's sort of kind of feeling like the Dodgers snatched one that they'd lost. They dropped it and they got it back.
Oh, they absolutely did. And going into that last game, I understood the logic of going with Dylan Cease. I mean, he's one of your most dependable guys, if not the most dependable guy. But going on short rest is always a risk. And if you look at the numbers of guys in short rest, that would back that up. And if I remember correctly, he didn't even last 2 innings, which that's not great. And the Padres had a prime chance of stealing or of winning that game going in because the vibes were all just pointed in the Padres' direction. But they gave the momentum right back to the Dodgers, and now they're going to have a winner-take-all game in LA. It's going to be Yu Darvish against – I mean, we don't know. I mean, there was a couple guys for the Dodgers who threw bullpens yesterday, one during the game and then one before the game. So they're going to have a couple of options here to evaluate, but it's the pitching matchup here. If they end up going – no matter who the Dodgers go with, Dave Roberts is going to have to be on his game and deploying the guys at the right time, trying to figure out exactly how best to utilize or maximize matchups. I am fascinated to see this. I don't exactly know what to expect, but my gut tells me that the Padres pull it off and beat the Dodgers in LA, and then we go back to San Diego, and it's going to be Padres versus Mets. That's my guess. Not just saying that because Drew arrived on the stream. I almost took the Dodgers because he arrived late, but I'm going to go with my initial instinct of Padres beat the Dodgers in Game 5. What do you think?
It would surprise me less than the Dodgers winning Game 4. And I know that you're just supposed to do obviously big payroll, so they won. Like the most reductive analysis of all. You see it everywhere. Of course, the Dodgers won that Game 4. They have money. No, that took gumption and guts and a reversal of what we'd seen previously in the series and in previous years. Mookie Betts entered Game 3 on an 0-for-22 slide. Didn't have a postseason hit in a couple of years. Hits a home run early. Teoscar Hernandez hits that huge grand slam, but they're not able to finish the deal. And you're thinking, they gave it their best shot. It's a better shot than they'd given it in 2022. But that's that. Say goodbye. Payroll doesn't buy you the ability to regroup in moments like that. It does buy you Shohei Ohtani, which helps.
No, it does. But also, look at the Phillies. They spent all that money, and yet they were not able to overcome it. I mean, it's just money gets you only so far, and yeah, it's not everything.
Look at what the Yankees are doing. Yeah, Yankees are scrapping it out with the Royals. They're up 2-1 right now. They have the triple the payroll advantage, but it's not showing up on the field. These games are won in the margins by an inch or two. So I give the Dodgers players a lot of credit for that, especially coming up with a pitching plan that looked underwhelming. Game 5 is going to be sort of an underwhelming pitching plan too. Let's see if Yamamoto gets the ball. Let's see who they go with. I don't know. I don't know. But Jack Flaherty maybe gets a couple of innings. I'm going to go with the Dodgers begrudgingly, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Padres pull it off.
No, I mean either way, I could be convinced no matter what on because both teams are extremely good, and I don't necessarily I have no idea what to really anticipate in this game. I just know it's going to be a great baseball game. I know it's going to be. I don't anticipate it being a blowout again. I mean, who knows? I mean, anything can happen, but I think there's going to be a hard-fought win that comes down to the very end. By the way, speaking of other Jacks, we mentioned Jack before. I'll mention another Jack. Jack Curry said that John Birdie is definitely going to start at first base tonight for the Yankees. Yep. So hold on to your butts, Adam. I know you're going to like that one.
I do like that one. I mean, they're playing a weird game there. The first basemen are a couple of infielders, a couple of utility types, and so far first base has not been their worst position. So see what you got. Garrett Cole, Michael Wacha in Game 4. Maybe you can get that one to the finish line. Maybe you can. Either way, up 2-1 in the series yesterday, somewhat unexpectedly. Maybe only from a Yankee fan perspective. 2-2 late in that game. I don't expect them to make a big move on the road. They do. They've been road warriors all year, better on the road than at home pretty significantly. So we'll see. But if Kansas City can get that to Game 5, obviously 50-50 coin flip, and the Royals have to feel good. But interesting series. And again, the payroll has had very little to do with it. If anything, I bet the Yankees wish that they had Jesse Winker making pennies in place of Aaron Judge based on the way that the last week or so has gone. Not really, but also I mean, payroll. What do you argue about payroll for? Winker's been better.
Yeah, you said it, not me. Winker's been very good. I mean, he's been way exceeded his deal. I don't know what Aaron Judge's issues are right now, but if the Yankees are going to advance beyond this series or even get past the Royals in this series, they need Judge to step up because they can't have Judge performing like this because, that's not a winning recipe. And I don't know how much more I can take of Bob Costas talking about Giancarlo Stanton, but we'll 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 save that for a rainy day. Maybe it's time to answer a couple questions.
I think so. Yeah. Is it time, as Bob Costas would say, is it time to answer questions? It is. Loves to answer his own questions, but we'll answer your questions here. Let's talk about the poll ads briefly, just because that is the breaking news today that Justin brought, the Twins ownership exploring a sale there. I don't think it's a coincidence that news comes after they decide to not add significant budget prior to the season or at the deadline, and then sort of peter out down the stretch. If you're wondering, hey, what went wrong in Minnesota? We thought they had a solid plan and a front office that worked and a field manager that we believed in. Maybe it's that they were not able to reinforce that roster with needs when the time came. Not a lot of flexibility and creativity. It does seem like Minnesota folks have celebrated that change so far. So curious as to your thoughts on that exploration.
Yeah, those rumors are obviously true. The Twins have since issued a statement, I believe, confirming those. But yeah, it's the Twins have been competitive in recent years, and the fact that they haven't added much to their payroll, it's been kind of frustrating because they've got the ingredients there. And yeah, I think hopefully if they're able to find multiple suitors to get the Twins or to buy the Twins, hopefully they're going to be willing to stretch payroll and trying to maximize their postseason chances, because we've seen it in that division this year. I mean, there's a lot of teams in that division that are surging and making a deep postseason run here, or trying to at least being competitive. So hopefully the new Twins ownership does that. So that's what I'm hoping for. Gresham 5, always good to see you. I hope you're having a nice Gresham 5 week so far. I'm just going to do some heavy hitters here, or some quick hitters, I should say. Cubs news, Jacob sleeps. Yep. I firmly expect them to be in the starting pitching market, by the way. That is one thing I am watching. I wonder about a Shane Bieber fit for Chicago, especially since they have Carter Hawkins there as their GM. I think that makes a lot of sense there for the Cubs. So we'll see, but I think that's one that makes sense. With Artie Moreno saying that he will increase payroll, what position is the highest priority for the Angels to get through free agency? That is a great question, because you can make the case here you can make the case for any position, really. I mean, that team they need help, and they need a lot of it. I don't think Juan Soto is going to be in the cards. I mean, maybe Corbin Burns, but I don't think that's necessarily the most likely thing in the entire world. I'm kind of in I'll believe it when I see it mode. I mean, Artie is definitely a guy who is willing to spend. Don't get me wrong. Like, that is one thing in his history that he has proven that he's willing to do, is spend. But I don't know. I'm skeptical of just how much he'll increase payroll. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, but I need to believe it, or I need to see it in order to believe it, is kind of what I'm getting at. So, but they do need pitching. I will say that. I will answer Sports Glory's questions here about Farhan and Posey, because he's
my favorite team. Also, you want to answer that?
Oh, you go. Who's your favorite team, Adam? We're all dying to know.
I love the Knicks. The New York Knicks are my favorite team for sure.
Oh, wait.
Well, and my favorite baseball team. Sorry. I mean, overall, my favorite team that I root for is the New York Knicks. But yeah, I root for the New York baseball Yankees, and I hope that's okay. I hope everybody accepts that.
I did not know the Knicks are your favorite sports team overall.
Right now, not forever for the duration of my life, but the current New York Knicks are the sports team that I enjoy the most, and I hope for good things for them.
No, that makes sense. Okay, that makes total sense. Go Knicks, by the way, because I don't really root for any basketball teams anymore. Go Warriors. I'll say that for my dad. Yeah. But as far as Sports Glory's question, we have touched on this in previous episodes, but I will say I think the Farhan fire had to happen. That is absolutely something that had to happen in San Francisco, especially once some of their chairmen and higher ups kind of their opinions were getting out through the media, all anonymously, I should say, through Andrew Baggerly, who did a great job reporting on that story and exactly what was going on behind the scenes in San Francisco. But Buster Posey, I think, is a really good hire for the Giants. He brings instant credibility. He brings someone who's going to be a really good recruiter in free agency, because I mean, having one of the best catchers in recent baseball history recruiting and trying to sign you, that's not going to hurt. But it kind of puts the Giants in a difficult position, because what happens if Posey stinks? I mean, he's one of the most unfireable people in baseball, and that would put ownership there in a really difficult position. So I'm curious to see what exactly happens there if that does happen, but I'm going to try to be optimistic. I do think it's a really strong hire for the Giants. I'm curious to see exactly the kind of people that he brings around him in the front office. I've heard of some different names that have been floated around, both that have been reported and some that have not been reported yet, to my knowledge. There are some very interesting names. I am not allowed to repeat them at this point, or I will not. Yeah, I'm not allowed to say them quite yet, but I will try to break that on the podcast before too long once I get the green light. So Posey's hard at work. I can confidently say that.
Hell yeah. Maybe when the postseason slows down a little bit. No more 4-game days, sadly. We're going to be down to 2 series and then down to 1, and we're going to have to, take some time out.
Yeah, sorry, don't mean to call timeout in the middle of your sentence, but Sports Glory, you've gone from 800 to 850 now to 900 million for Soto. You've gone up $100 million on a 30-minute podcast. That's not very good negotiating by you.
No need to bid against yourself. I mean, maybe you're, hey, let's do $1 million. Let's do 100 million. Or you're already at 900 million, so let's get to $1 billion.
Yeah, honestly, by the time I end up eating dinner tonight, he's gonna be at like 5.6 billion.
And again, it's just you in the room right now. He has yet to even reach free agencies. You're just kind of talking to it's people who told you they were Juan Soto's representatives at this point. Can you even be sure?
Yeah, I don't know. But good job, Sports Glory. You're making him lots of money. So
yes,
good job.
But did you guys enjoy that part where I forgot that $1 billion comes after 900 million? Did you guys enjoy that part of the podcast? I sure did.
I was trying not to give you flack for it, but
what the fuck is going on?
I was trying to be a nice friend and good co-host, but that was good math by you.
Right from 900 million to $1 million, says Adam Weinrib. $1 million could work. I'd sign Juan Soto for $1 million, but $1 billion probably makes more sense. Thanks for joining us. Still plenty of series left to be determined. 3 tickets left to be punched. 2 championship series. We're going to see some joy and some despair over the next couple of days. And when we come back next week after the holiday, we'll be back on Tuesday. Monday's a holiday. Enjoy yourselves. We'll be live streaming on Tuesday with the CS participants, taking your questions. Join us in the Discord. In the meantime, ask us before we get on the show. We'll have plenty of topics lined up for you as well. Maybe we'll even be able to break some front office hires. Until then, Robert Murray, it's been fun, and I don't know. I could foresee a little bit of blue or a little bit of tan and yellow and brown, and then next round coming to Citi Field for Game 3. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I cannot wait to find out tomorrow because it is going to be absolutely fascinating. But
I like that they have it to themselves too. Friday night, that's all that's on TV. Watch Game 5, superstars in action.
Oh, absolutely. And I also like the fact that this is the first time that you've broken news on this podcast, Adam, and MLB Deadline News isn't here. I did not realize Monday's a holiday. So good job breaking that news to me. That's the only kind of, you can only find that kind of stuff on the Baseball Insiders. I'm telling you. Shout out to Adam Weinrib for that. I appreciate you for breaking that news to me because I had no idea. I'll be either in San Diego or Los Angeles for that show. So stay tuned for wherever that's going to be. I don't know. Nobody knows, but I can't wait to find out. But Adam, I will talk to you next week. Everyone, I will talk to you next week. We appreciate you tuning in. Sean Daly, our producer for the day, we appreciate you. Adam, thank you.
Sure do. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate you, Robert. Do you have flights booked to both cities or just one?
I don't have anything booked quite yet, so I'm legit going last second here. I've got all my options pulled up online, and I'm just waiting to hit the go button.
Yeah, gas up that Winnebago, get to Dodger Stadium or Petco Park, see what you can do. Oh my God, maybe I'm trying to get to Citi Field next week, but I don't know. Those prices are. There's a fun brewery attached to Citi Field. It feels like it'd be a fun spot to talk to some folks, maybe write a story about that. Maybe for some of the away games. But if you want to get me a bar seat at Ebbs, let me know. Maybe Grimace and I will party together. I'll just do a long story. I'll do a long read breaking down the Grimace Mets fan relationship. See how many Grimaces I can wrangle in one bar. Probably more than one. Probably more than 5. Maybe I'll even hang out with those kissing Grimaces. We'll see. Either way, we'll see you on Tuesday. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.